All right, welcome everybody. We're going to start this meeting on time at 4 o'clock. This is the July 6th CRB meeting. Time now is 4 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Chair Lewis. Vice Chair Campenny. Board Member Dooley.
Here.
Board Member Makumson. Board Member Schroth.
Here.
Board Member Waka. Board Member Walson.
Here.
Okay. Before we get started, can I ask everybody if they would stand up and pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first item is an approval of the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. Next set is going to be the approval of the agenda. Today on the agenda, we have a presentation of the gateway signage as well as a couple applicants for the BURP program. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, getting right down to this. Okay, so any general comments from the public non-related to any agenda items today? Not seeing any in the public or online. Any general comments from the board members?
Yes.
Yes.
When is our scheduled end for Shepherd Park?
That's, oh,
The
I
construction.
believe that's the end of August, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's on, I don't have the end date.
Okay.
Just good to see everybody again. Finally, without the mask and everything, we've already kind of commented on that. Glad to have everybody here and healthy. All right, we are going to move on the, let's see, Community Redevelopment Board. First thing on the agenda, I believe it is the signage.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Panal Gandhi Savda, CRA Administrator for the record. So this project is part of the Gateway Beautification Project that we started with the Federal Highway Improvement Project. So it's a two-phase project. We wanted to create an entryway to downtown and give a sense of arrival to the downtown area. The gateway signage is part of the second phase to improve the signage and welcome our visitors to downtown and special districts within the CRA. So the CRA contracted with Kimley Horn to develop the conceptual plans for the gateway and district signage. So we came up with two options, and as you've seen in your package, for signage family, which includes the horizontal gateway signage. This would be for major entry points into Stewart, so it would be more of a welcome sign, and it would replace the existing gateway signs that we have on Federal Highway, Canner Highway. The wider vertical downtown Stewart sign would go at the entry point of our downtown, and then the narrow vertical district signage would be within the district that we recently identified, which includes the Historic District, the Creek District, and we're currently working on the proposed Triangle District. The consultant is here with us today, so he will go more in details on the signage, the material, the cost for construction, and the location of where these signs would go. The options, both of these options were presented to the DBA, Main Street, and the Arts and Entertainment District boards, and the consensus of all the boards was that they did prefer option 2. They did make some comments on option 1, and staff did take that into consideration and made the revisions, and what you see before you in option 1 are part of those comments that we received. We also did a poll to get feedback from the community. We received 505 responses, which is pretty good, and the poll concluded that 66% of the respondents liked option 2, which you saw earlier, which is like a sign, wave option. 19% liked option 1, and only about 15% didn't like either of the option. Again, like I said, Brian Good is here from Kimley Horn, so I'm going to let him provide more details about the signage, and if you have any questions, we can address it after his presentation.
How you doing, sir?
Good afternoon. Brian Good with Kimley Horn. Oh, okay. I'm sorry? Would you like the lights off? Can the board see the?
Yeah,
we can
Yeah,
see it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Yes, PDF, that's all.
Cool. Okay, so as Pinal indicated, we're going to quickly run through the sign options that were presented in the polls that were presented to the community. We're going to discuss the locations that were identified for these signs to be installed within the community. We're going to discuss the remaining schedule, should the project continue to move forward, that the board and the city could expect, as well as we're going to discuss what the opinion of probable construction costs of the installation of these signs would be. So as Pinal had indicated,
Recording in progress.
thank you. There are two signs. This is option one. This is a sailfish abstract theme. From the community meetings we had, this sign package was altered. It was consistent from the 3 public meetings that we had regarding the sign packages that there was some imagery of railroad tracks in the previous iteration that was not appealing to the participants of the public meetings that had taken place. So the signs were altered to be more sailfish-like. And the ones that they saw railroad tracks were more in the district signs. There were 2 parallel bars that gave the impression of railroad tracks. So that was altered. And the sign package that you see before you is what was present in the online poll that we had over 500 respondents to. If I could ask you to go to option 2. So this is a river wave theme sign package. This one was well received from all the public meetings as well as the online poll. And it's just a different context of theme, if you will, of monument and district sign packages. So the wave-like imagery that you see, all this is water jet cut aluminum that will be powder coated. The faux wood is a tile, faux wood tile backing for the background that you see in the beige, and then the base is concrete stucco that will be painted. So this is the existing and proposed monument sign locations. So does a pointer work on this, or probably
Yeah.
it probably doesn't?
Yeah.
I should have made all the dots a different color. It would have been easier to speak to. So the city today has a monument sign north of the bridge in this location along US 1. It has a sign south US 1, and those signs look very identical to the sign you see before you, as well as there's one on Indian Street that also looks like this sign. I don't know how long those signs have been in place, but it's been a fair amount of time. They've been there as long as I can remember, but I don't know when they were installed. DOT installed this monument sign on Canner Highway. How long do you think that? Probably about 5 years ago?
Probably 10 years ago when
10.
they did the Memorial Parkway Bridge.
Okay. So say 10 years ago, DOT. So these are the 4 signs that are out there today. 3 of these signs would propose to be relocated with one of the options that we presented to you earlier, and it would be the South US 1, North US 1, and then the one on Indian Street would be proposed to be replaced with a more current monument sign that we previously presented. May. So this is an aerial shot of downtown. The images that you see in blue, green, and say red are the 3 districts that the district signs will be located. The white signs represent where we are proposing the vertical downtown signs that say, downtown Stewart, that we see those as being gateway entry points into downtown Stewart. The red signs represent district sign locations for the Triangle District. The yellow represent the historic downtown district signs, and the blue signs represent the Creek District signs. You'll notice that all the signs have either a 1 or a 2 within them. The 1 and 2 represent the phase that we would see those signs to be installed. So 1 is phase 1, which we're speaking about this afternoon, and 2 represents a second phase that is yet to be contemplated. The reason there's a phase 2 is the location points that we've identified for these various signs are what we see as being entry points either into the downtown, the city, or district area, being gateway points. Some of those locations that we think are ideal for these signs to be placed, the city doesn't have right-of-way control to place a sign. So we see as redevelopment occurs within the downtown area that staff could work with that development application to secure an easement or a right-of-way such that those signs could be installed at a later date. And we have 3 of those signs, so 3 of the 9 would be future signs for those reasons. This is a blow-up north of the bridge over by Wright Boulevard and down off of Dixie, just north of the old bridge. Again, these are the vertical gateway signs that say downtown Stewart. And this is a more blow-up of the district signs and the one down to vertical Welcome to Stewart sign that's to be located on South US 1. So the project schedule, we're in July, so it's the CRB conceptual approval is what we're seeking for this afternoon. The CRA approval would continue to go in July this month. Budget approvals would come before you in September, which I believe would allocate the the monies for actual construction of these signs. So going through site-specific design and permitting is estimated to take about 5 months, and then bid solicitation and construction phase is taking, we identified 8 months, with 2 to 3 of that is the actual advertisement solicitation of bids from contractors. So we did go out to several sign manufacturers for dollar of the signs, since these are one-offs. These are not stock signs that you can go to a sign fabricator and pull one off the shelf. They are custom. So we are looking at anywhere from $270,000 to $285,000 of actual construction costs for the implementation of 3 monument signs, 3 vertical monument signs, and then 6 of the district signs. And I believe we have made the recommendation to staff based upon the community input and the polls for option 2. So I believe that is what we are asking the board to take action on this afternoon. And that concludes my brief presentation.
All right, thank you, sir. Board members, my understanding, well, from what I know now, we're not voting on anything. My understanding is we're to provide direction as far as the signage option, so I don't think we need a vote to discuss at this point in time. I liked option 2. Just my 2 cents. I enjoyed option 2. I originally had to say option 1 I thought was railroad tracks. And then I saw sailfish,
So
and I
did
saw
I.
the sailfish, and I could see it once I knew what it was, and I thought that was neat, but I did like option 2. As far as the thoughts on locations, I agree they should be north and south of US 1 coming into town, and some signages up, approaching downtown Stewart. Any other comments from the board?
I have a couple questions.
Yes.
Is this in our budget now?
So the conceptual was in last year's budget. So I'm going to be budgeting for the design and construction in fiscal year 2022, depending on the direction I get from the CRB and CRA.
And the second question is, why wouldn't we replace the Canner sign? Because it's gonna be out of character with the rest of the signage.
I didn't know if we would want to replace something that's just was recently installed 10 years ago. It's up to the board if that's the direction we would have to work with.
I mean,
FDOT.
wouldn't it be better to have everything uniform?
I
And that's
agree.
our
I think
theme, that's the Stewart look.
I agree.
I would agree with that.
I didn't know, because I know that sign was something that the city requested FDOT to do, and now to go back and replace it. I just don't know how they will react, so it
But
was,
that's been 10 years.
Sign go,
Yeah.
give us like a 5 for 1 or something.
But that's been 10 years, so it's not like they
Yeah.
did it a year ago.
Yeah,
So
well-
I would make a recommendation that we do include that sign so that everything that we have looks the same. And it looks to me like that would be another $35,000, correct?
That is, should you endorse option 2,
Yeah.
yes, that is correct.
I do want to point out that 3 of those horizontal monument signs are outside of CRA. So that is something I would have to work with the city manager to budget separately.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah,
Well, that's why it's easy for us to recommend to place the
There's
can
a couple
aside.
more outside
It's
of
coming,
CRA.
not coming from the budget.
Board Member Walson?
Yeah, I was gonna say, of the options, I'm in the 15%, to be honest with you, sir. And I would prefer actually the one that's out on Canner to be our consistent sign. But that's because I'm not an Art Deco guy, and I'm more than willing, happy to be outvoted, which is just fine with me.
So you're not a fan of either option 1 or option 2?
No.
Okay.
I have a question. The sign out on Canner, that was 10 years ago, correct? But what was the price on that sign? Do we know?
I was not involved with that project. I-
FDOT built that.
FDOT gave it to us with the bridge.
Oh, okay, okay.
I can say I've done several recently, probably in the last 18, 24 months. We did a couple gateway sign, monument signs for the City of Vero Beach Airport. Similar in size. These have a little bit more ornate, kind of the water-cut elements that make it a little bit more aesthetic. But those signs ranged in $20,000 to $30,000. So while the signs were probably a little bit bigger footprint than what we're speaking about this afternoon, these are probably a little bit more higher finish than what those were, because those were just concrete block and stucco and
Right.
paint.
Okay.
So
Besides for Mr. Walson, is everybody on the same page as option 2, it seems like?
That's the majority of the people too, so.
Yeah, I like option
Why
2.
would we
All right.
go against the majority?
Is there any other comments on as far as?
I did have one. The gateway sign that you have at Colorado Avenue, is there any directional on that?
on Colorado, the district signs?
Yeah.
So the district, that would be the Creek District?
No,
So-
it wouldn't.
You see what,
That would be the creek, wouldn't it?
Right.
No, it was white or yellow.
it should be blue. No, I'm sorry, if you go back to that, could you go to that slide that had the locations? So if you could scroll down to a more of a zoomed in, 2 more, just go down 2 more. That, so the ones on Colorado are the blue ones, which this is Colorado here. So these are the Creek District signs.
What about that one at the bottom? that's
This
white?
one?
That's Indian.
So that's Allen US 1, and that sign's a vertical monument sign
Yeah.
that says
Downtown Stewart.
Downtown Stewart, thank you.
And is there any indication that downtown Stewart is a right turn ahead?
No, these are not wayfinding. None of these signs provide directional information. It's really at gateway points where it is conceived that you are entering downtown Stewart, and it's notifying the motorist or the pedestrian that you are now entering downtown Stewart.
Okay.
Is there any other further comment or direction? So I think we're all on the same page with option 2, and I don't know, Pinell, is there any other type of feedback as far as that you need from the board? I know some of the stuff are outside our district or outside our area, so I don't know if we can comment on those, but other than that, I think.
Right, so that's a recommendation I'll make to the CRA, that the CRB board recommended option 2.
And I think we seem to agree that there should be some uniformity with,
And
Right.
include Canner.
yeah,
With
include
the
camp.
F-dot sign,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank
very
you.
much. All right, now moving forward, we're going to the next item on the agenda. We have a couple presentations regarding the the BIRP program, BIRP program. I will probably ask this board if we want to vote on the first 2 together, since they're dealing with the signs alone, and that's it, and it just seems to upgrade when we get to that point, but we'll get to that point when we get to that point.
Okay, so,
Is there a
do you want me
presentation?
to go? Okay.
Yep.
So this is part of the BIRB grant application process, and this is a second grant cycle for the program. The CRB and CRA approved 3 applications in March, which was the first grant cycle, and we awarded approximately $21,000 at that time. So there was a remaining balance of about $29,000, so the board approved to reopen the grant cycle so that we could allocate the funds to different applications. Just a brief overview about the program, goals and guidelines. The program was created to provide incentives to property owners to encourage them to make exterior improvements to their business or storefront within the CRA. It is consistent with the CRA plan. There are other cities and counties that administer similar types of programs. And the benefit of the program is that it adds value to the property, and then the improvements, the values returned back into the CRA in a TIF revenue form. The program provides a reimbursement of 50% of the total project cost, not to exceed $10,000. Staff reviewed the application based on the criteria that was approved last year and used the scoring tier for grant administration. So we received 3 applications. The first one was Motor Cars of Stewart, which is located at 309 South Federal Highway. The applicant is requesting to remove an existing pole sign and replace it with a monument sign. The total cost of the project is $15,897. The applicant is qualified to receive up to 50%, so that's up to $7,948. The benefit to the CRA that we would be removing non-conforming pole signs, replacing it with a monument sign that would enhance the federal highway frontage. This is also part of our triangle district, so we are using the grant to improve the area, and it helps to improve the visibility of the business and has a positive impact on the business. Staff reviewed the application based on the established criteria. The applicant received a score of 52.5 points. And this shows the existing pole sign and the proposed monument sign. Staff did not review the monument sign for code compliance. That is something the applicant will apply for building permit and will be reviewed separately. The second application is Tropic Tint. It's located adjacent to the Motor Cars of Stewart. This is located at 317 South Federal Highway. Again, this is a replacement of pole sign to a monument sign. The total cost of the project is $16,354. So the applicant is qualified to receive $8,177. Again, this would be a removal of non-conforming sign to a monument sign. The applicant received a score of 52.5 points, and here it shows the existing condition of the pole sign, which was destroyed during the hurricane and was not replaced, and the proposed monument sign. I do want to point out that currently the 2 businesses are on one parcel, and the code only allows 1 monument sign per parcel unless you meet the 300 feet separation distance, and this parcel doesn't meet the 300 separation distance either. So I have communicated with the applicant that in order to have 2 signs, that they would have to be 2 separate parcels, and the applicant has agreed that that she would be separating the parcel to benefit the businesses. And that would be a condition of approval if the board approves the project today. The third application is from Ziad Investment, also known as the Harvey Plaza, located at 502 Southeast MLK Boulevard. Overall improvements are new awning, painting, replacing stucco bands, replacing gutters, parking lot improvements, new signage, and new landscaping. The total cost of the project is $24,500. The applicant can receive up to $10,000 for this project. And overall, it will improve the exterior appearance of the property. The new awning will call attention to the storefront, and it will help with the sales of the business. It will attract new business and shoppers to the area, and motivate other adjacent property owners to make improvements, and it'll help to revitalize the MLK Boulevard corridor. I do want to point out that both applicants were not able to get 2 estimates as required by the guidelines, just because the high demand in construction industry. They've just had a hard time having the contractors come out and give estimates. So both estimates are based on one contractor providing an estimate. Should the board decide that they want a second estimate, that could be a condition of approval that they would have to provide a second estimate, and we would give grant based on the lowest estimate. In this case, third application received a score of 80 points. Here's a summary of all three applications, and they all qualified to receive either 50% of the total project cost or up to $10,000. So staff is requesting approval to accept staff recommendation for the grant disbursements to the applicant. The recommendation will go to the CRA meeting on July 26th for final approval, and the new cycle will open once the CRA budget is approved in September, and the cycle will reopen on October 1st. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you. All
So,
right.
so I take it we had that money. We had this amount of money
Yeah.
still in the BRP program.
Okay, so we had, I had mentioned beforehand, talking about the first two applicants, because they seemed to be just upgrading the pole sign, which I guess they were non-conforming anyway. I was trying to figure out the easiest way of just go ahead and voting on this. We need a motion to discuss this, don't we? To even discuss it?
I'll move approval of the three projects.
Okay, well, then that helps out. Is there a second for the approval of the three projects?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, all right. So for the start discussion off, Motor Cars of Stewart, I believe that was the first, was that right? Is that the first applicant that we went through? I believe they're trying to upgrade a non-conforming signage, non-conforming pole sign. Is there any comments or anything like that, or any concerns about that at all?
I mean, the only thing that seems a little bit odd is that there's a non-conform, like we're essentially funding a non-conformity.
And I agree with that. I think that's one of the arguments we have every time we have the BRP program, and just kind of providing money to help, further, yeah. And I think that was we even thought about that, are they gonna use the BRP program for this? I think I was thought about it in, in the program, and I think it's one of the things we kind of gonna have to accept. We're gonna have that issue, but.
But if you
No,
said they're going to.
They're going from non-conforming to
To
conforming.
conforming, but that's
by a
what I'm
split
saying.
lot. They're gonna split the lot, is that what you said?
In this case, they will have to split the lot if they want to do two signs. If they decide to do just one sign, then they can have both businesses on one sign, and they would only get one grant awarded.
Because I think it's kind of expensive just
To
to get
do two.
$15,000
Well-
to pay to split the lots, don't
I
you?
mean, I guess I don't really know what's entailed in splitting the lot and like what additional nonconformities are gonna be created by splitting the lot. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
You got setbacks, you got,
In the downtown, I think we should be trying to assemble properties to make, make bigger, better things. And here we are, either A, encouraging someone to build a nonconformity by funding it, or B, encouraging someone to, split a lot. And I'm just pulling up the aerial. They got a nice whole city block there, and, we're gonna go and cut it in half. Like I said, I think you kind of create more nonconformities then by doing a lot split, but that's not, like, I'm not seeing that here, and I don't know what that's entailed, so, or what's entailed in that, like how they're gonna go about that.
I think it would just be a legal description that would split the two lots. Because they've always been treated, from what I understand the applicant is here, they've always been treated as a two separate parcel. And they have two separate leases, and in order for them to maintain those businesses there, those businesses would prefer to have their own signs. And I'll let the applicant speak up to the board.
Am I allowed to address that?
Oh, yes, please. Please come up and state your name.
My name's Joanne Schultz, and I'm the owner of the property. A couple things that are going on with that property. Right in front of that trailer, you see a white line there? That's a 6-inch step, so the properties are physically separated. And so it's not one block, it's actually two separate pieces of property. There's a curb there. And over the past a few years. So that pink building was the first one, just to make a note of it, was the first one to come under the new CRA. That was the first construction. I think that was 1999. And the other building had been hit by the hurricane. And so the first one came under all of the building codes at the time and met all the building codes. It was treated as a separate entity. Certain parking lots were treated, parking spaces that required were treated separate to that building. And the building code, and I had to bring it up to the front of the street. And that was all done for that building alone, not including the other buildings. So they've always been treated separately, and all the construction that I had to do and all the permits, everything's been treated separately, both properties. The second property was hit in that hurricane 2004 or 5, and then had to be totally rebuilt, and the same thing happened again. So it was treated completely as a separate piece of property. And then as far as the discussion with the signs and then meeting building code, what I'm doing is, or the new code, the sign code, what I'm doing is taking the extra money and making the signs nicer. I can put up something that would be passable, not as attractive, and so I'm using that to sort of build upon and making it more attractive. I've served on the board before, so I have an interest in making the whole gateway
Right.
attractive. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, I guess I have a comment. I appreciate everything you've done on there, and Tropic Tints. I don't know if Chip's still there?
Just passed last year.
He passed? God, he had to be too much younger than me, I guess. Okay, anyway, God, that's awful. We're replacing this to enhance the aesthetics of the highway. And what I noticed on the way up, and I know it might be contraindicated to a used car business, is that we don't have any landscaping on the length of that entire property. And that in the interest of aesthetics, one of the things I frankly, as a board member here, I'm willing to throw more money at getting some landscaping in there, as we had attempted to do with the funeral home on US 1 at one time. Fix the sign, make it as beautiful as you want. and
Well,
then-
I'd like to go on record as accepting that additional money for that landscaping.
But you have to come up with the other 50%.
I understand.
I don't know how Pinnell feels about that. We've got an application in process here, or how the board feels about it, but
Sure. I think that's a great point.
Well, and Pete, to that point, I mean, we just, 2 meetings ago, had a presentation on this corridor and how, the Regional Planning Council's doing something, and, I don't know if maybe there's a way to take some bits and pieces out of that and try to, at least work in that direction. I mean, I realize, and this is kind of always the balancing act between what Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council comes up with as, the land planners, roller of, city blocks and what they should look like in a utopian universe, and the reality of a business that's been there and continues to be there and hopefully will continue to be there, but maybe we can pick a couple of elements that can either be incorporated into the sign or, as kind of an architectural feature, or can be, incorporated into the property like Pete's talking about as landscaping, or maybe there's, a piece of gateway, signage that needs to go here, and they can, somehow find some space on there for that. Like,
I did happen to notice that one of the signs is pretty
I think it's pretty close, yeah. But, and I'm not trying to, throw the quintessential, land grab at you, but at the same time, maybe if we can at least incorporate some of the elements of our plan with their plan, it can be something that at least works in that direction. Because my concern is, we're approving something, we're funding something that's essentially a nonconformity. And it doesn't mean that if we don't fund it, the businesses go away and it changes tomorrow. So like, I'm not opposed to funding it, and I'm not opposed to seeing, I'd love to see those businesses stay there and thrive. And my office is right across the street. So, it's any improvement to that corridor is beneficial. I think it just makes sense to try to, where possible and where feasible, maybe merge a couple of the different ideas that the city's got swirling around and make them land on the same with the same paintbrush,
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Walsh?
Again, I agree with Nick. The non-conforming has been a problem. I think that Mr. Thomas is also one of those who feels that perhaps we shouldn't be putting money into businesses that are self-sustaining and can support their own stuff, particularly with regard to a non-conforming. But I have swallowed that somewhere along the way,
As have I.
I mean, for the
as
record,
has Thomas,
what we were talking
because he
about.
kept
for the
his
record,
mouth
we
shut,
built a new
right?
monument sign in North River Shores,
No.
just
So-
because it needed a new monument
Yeah.
sign, and the old pole, I think the pole signs are, they're like
Well, the-
grandfathering ends next year or something,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But anyway, the comment being that I'm overlooking the non-conforming, Nick, so the whole point that, and I agree with you, but if that were the case and there were three of us, you, Thomas, and I, we wouldn't be approving any of these business grants to some degree, because a lot of them do revolve around non-conforming aspects. But we have to get over it, which I guess I did, and Tom says he's gotten over it. So
Well, if the
I don't
commission
believe
keeps,
you, but
keeps passing it,
I'll
I
take-
fight
I'll
it.
Take your word on it. But I guess the point that I'm looking at is, Nick, I don't care if there's a vertical sign there or some kind of aesthetics we have in mind. I don't care if we draw a city plan where we actually just put the stuff on her property with her knowledge, with her
What stuff?
landscape.
Like, okay, well, I love the landscaping.
Right. Right.
The
Whether-
only concern I had with as I was thinking about
I know.
the monument sign, which I was on the board with the original signs, that blue and gold, which I never liked. But,
Really?
anyway,
That was then, this is now, come on.
I never got over it. I never got over it. But, so I'd be wondering how 3 monument signs might look on that property. I'm
Yeah.
willing to, of course, it's more aesthetics with me, but whatever you guys need.
I think it's I know you've got a car business going there and,
Well, my business is a tent business.
Or your tenant does,
Yeah.
has a car business going there, so there's only so much blockage you can put and take away his visibility for selling, which is, and
yeah,
I
we
understand
have
that.
Tried the, the bushes and things like that.
Have you?
Yeah,
Yeah. I didn't make it?
no,
Okay.
I know.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know what it is, but I'd like the city to keep that in mind, that if we're really going for aesthetics and we're really beautifying the city, that the single most thing that we've got, and I think the city commission would probably agree with me, is landscaping and trees are missing. Gateway signs, but it's landscaping that we need, and the monument signs are a nice aspect to US One, and I think it'll work out well for you when we get it done, and hopefully we'll be able to plan it well enough for,
May I suggest she can always come back with the landscaping to us.
can she come back next year? That's the other question.
Right, exactly. She can come back next year for
Okay,
the.
if we
And-
can come up with a
instead of trying
landscaping
to
idea,
rush
you
this-
come up with a landscaping idea. The grant will be here next year, and then maybe we can address something like that. And you'll need to get your tenant's approval, because
Right.
a whole foliage jungle might not be good for his car business,
Right.
right? Okay, other than
think
that,
we
I'm
can do
willing to,
something.
I'm willing to approve it.
Oh,
I
well,
did-
there's three
Yeah.
things up.
So is anybody have any further questions for Tropic 10? Okay, thank you very much. We haven't talked about the Harvey location yet. I don't know if anybody had any issues with that or any comments on that.
I'll tell you one thing that might attend to Nick on the second one, which we're passing it, first two together as a group.
Well, there's a motion for
There's a
all
motion to
three.
pass all
Okay,
three.
is that there was a pole sign on Tropic 10, and it blew down the hurricane. And according to city laws, whatever we call them, Mike knows what we call them, you got something that's non-conforming and it blows away in a hurricane, you can't put up a,
Yeah, well, what we did with the pole signs is the non-conforming nature of it was extended until 2018. So if they blew down before, they were allowed to put it back up. But starting in 2018 now, they can't put it back up no matter what. There was like exceptions because the commission at the time, it was the recession issue. and
Right, I
they
wasn't
kill
given
everybody
that
for
exception, so
But now
they
they
disallowed that.
Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong, don't all pole signs have to go away next year?
23, right?
The current code was extended twice, and I don't know what the exact deadline is, 22 or 23 says the deadline is dropped dead, that they're actually gonna have to go around and code enforce people, they have a $250 a day fine until they spend $10,000 to replace their sign. What happens is there's an overwhelming number of people that flip out whenever we do that.
And the code gets
So what I
extended.
expect the commission to probably do is look at how well we've done and what kind of attrition we've had. Because obviously, at the time that it started, in like 2010 or 11, I think there was 130 pole signs that were on the corridor. And I think now it's, at least half of them are gone. As long as it's trending downward and they're getting replaced, the commission may extend it again. But yes, Mr. Schroff is right. I think it's 22 or maybe 23 is a previously adopted law. Notice has been sent to every single person with a pole sign saying that you have until this date, certified mail, et cetera, so they all got the notices.
Is that how you spell punt, P-U-N-T?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
by the way, twice. The commission punted twice. They,
So-
not, they didn't punt it, they never walked away from it. They removed the deadline. The one deadline came up right in the height of the recession. Like literally, people did not have the money to do their signs, couldn't get a loan, nothing. And so they extended it. I think now it's gonna be difficult to justify extending it again.
So, Mr. Chair, could I suggest that we approve this and how she has to go about it by getting a permit and so forth? That's really not what we're worried about because we don't have to pay it until she has gotten the permit and put up the sign. So if we don't get involved in the minutia, we could just approve the two signs and how the city handles it from there is the city's.
Correct, because they'll have to go through permit review process, and at that time, they'll catch that it's one parcel and they're applying for two monument signs.
And that's a different problem than what we have
So,
today.
okay, so before we start on the vote, is there any further comments from the public? Not seeing any online. Any further comments from the board? There is a motion on the
Are there
table.
any comments to be made on the last piece, the Harvey?
We
Since
have,
it's separate.
no,
Well,
it's all three, I made it all three, so.
Mr. Kim Penny added the third one on
So
there.
we're not mad, okay. So I have no comments on the Harvey.
Okay,
I don't have any comments.
all right, so this is money, so I think we need to do a roll call.
Board Member Dooley.
Yes.
Board Member Schroth.
Yes.
Board Member Walson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Campenny.
Yes,
Chair Lewis.
Yes. All right, so moved.
We'll see you for landscaping next year.
Yeah. All right, moving forward, is there any other matters before the board?
I just have one comment that arises out of monument sign. I'm glad we have the building officials here. I think I mentioned this before, that when we go to monument signs, that we need to make sure that with the applicant, that we coordinate their landscaping with their monument signs. I may be the only one here who's a fan of ABC Liquors, but it definitely meets the landscape code, and it's got great full-bearing trees out front, spaced properly apart, meeting the entire landscape code, but it's to the extent that you cannot see their monument sign.
Can't see the sign.
And so there's something to be cautious of with monument
but
signs.
Pete, how do we tell someone to put landscaping if we're, first of all, we're never gonna approve these monument signs unless they come here for money.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about us. I just like.
Oh, in general, okay.
So, and to that point, I mean, if they come here for money, then I think you get the opportunity to say, hey, you know, pretty this up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think in, you know, my opinion, if there's the opportunity, if staff's working on a plan, you know, like the Treasure Coast Regional Planning
Right.
Council, I would like to see before these come to the, you know, before they come here,
Right.
maybe there's some conversation about, hey, this is a plan that's in the works, how can we work some
Is
elements
that my
from that
ABC
plan
Liquors?
Right.
to try to work in that direction, because
Oh, yeah.
there's still a ton of,
The one on
there's
the
a ton
road?
of wanting plan
They have that
things
one
in the city everywhere, but you
You
don't know.
cannot see that,
don't
you
see
cannot
a
see,
lot of
Michael,
on the street.
those
Correct,
trees
yeah.
are not that
Maybe
small
we
anymore.
can take some baby steps to just
I agree with,
building some of those elements in.
Chris agrees
And
with
I
me.
agree with the
Drive up the
landscaping.
right-hand
But I
lane
think
as
that'll
if you were
require
turning into it.
irrigations, I think
and
it's
you
a
will
whole
be-
separate.
Yeah,
You'll be
plan,
surprised. Now, I
But, you
mentioned
know,
it to them and said you could probably go to the
enough
city and they could get a
So we can
permission
work
to
with
take
the
eight.
applicant to get that application next year.
They
We
should.
had
All
just
right.
one meeting, guys?
Is there any other historic preservation board matters or staff updates? Not seeing any. Can I get a motion for
So
adjournment?
moved.
Move, second.
All right. Good job, guys. Good job, guys.
Sorry to elevate.